Hi, everybody. We are live on YouTube. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. For now, I just have up on the screen the website where you can view information about our survey. If you haven't done it yet, please take a couple minutes to fill it out. We're really excited about hearing what your vision for Lewisboro is. Okay, we're at 7:29, so I will call the meeting to order. We're not going to review any minutes from previous meetings tonight, so I just wanted to go over a couple quick sort of housekeeping items before we jump into the agenda items. Let me just look at those. Okay, so you'll notice that we're virtual today, and I just wanted to reiterate that we confirmed with legal counsel that it's perfectly within the New York and local guidelines to stay virtual. And from my perspective, I think it's the right thing to do in terms of efficiency, time management, and continuity, since we've been on Zoom the whole time. And it will also ease administrative responsibilities in terms of broadcasting. And it's a great way to make sure that we still broadcast all of our meetings on YouTube. But I just wanted to poll the committee members to see if there were any objections to that.
No, that's what I did for CAC, so I didn't even ask the legal counsel.
We just wanted to make sure Kirsten happened to be privy to a meeting they were having about that kind of topic anyway. So, okay, so I don't hear any objections. Larry, Charlene, no? Okay, awesome. That's a definite majority. So the other thing, we will be doing a quarterly presentation to the town board at the next meeting on July 26th. And I just wanted to check with Jane and Dan, and you can just hold your answer for later on in the agenda. But wondering if 10 minutes is okay with regards to that update, just something simple about what we've done so far, where we're going, and immediate next steps. And just wondering about the format, if we could call in and do it via conference call or send in remarks to be read, or if you'd prefer that someone was there in person. So I'll kick that to you for later on in the agenda. But for now, we can move into our first agenda item, which is about our survey. Again, if you haven't taken our survey yet, please do so. It should take less than 5 minutes, and I will kick it over to Larry just to give us an update on that and where we are. I'll just share my screen with the agenda too, so we can see the topic points we need to hit.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Well, I'll give you an update on the survey that we sent out. Well, we didn't send it out, but we made it available for the community to take. Just a quick refresher, the survey is available on the Lewisboro Town website on the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee page. There's a link to it. It's also, we had sent it out to a few civic organizations in an email, and I saw a few posts on Facebook by residents and so forth. So it's gotten out there. We've also made physical copies of the survey available for those who wanted to take the survey with paper and pencil or paper and pen. And those surveys are available at the local post offices, the library, town offices, and I believe maybe a couple of other locations. I think most of the responses that have come back to date have been through the electronic format. The survey can be taken on a laptop or on a phone as long as you have the link. It's pretty easy to take, and 282 responses have been received to date. The average time that was spent filling out the survey was about 6 minutes and 22 seconds. 100% of the surveys that were submitted were completed entirely. So that's important. It means that people were working all the way through the survey and not giving up after a couple of questions. The survey has 13 questions. The only thing I would add is that the last question was the one that got the most skipped responses. It was an open-ended question, so you had to think about it a little bit and fill in the response. But we have 282 responses to date, and I think that's a pretty good response. Most of the responses came in the initial 3 weeks of the survey, and we've been getting about 20 responses or so a week. Since then, actually today we got seven surveys filled in. So they continue to trickle in. And I guess the question would be, how are we doing so far? And I think after 6 weeks, this is a pretty good response. I was hoping that we would have at least 100 responses, so we would have some sort of significance to a sample and a big enough sample. So I think we've surpassed the minimum responses we would like to get. If this was, this survey is going to be used really to help guide a consultant and the steering committee on issues that residents feel are important to the town. So it is important, and because it is an important survey, I think we want to get a statistically significant sample from the town. And this is where we kind of get to rules of thumb. I'm not a statistician, although I did take my college level statistics classes, although that was a few decades ago. But I think what we're aiming for is that 10% of the population, roughly the last 3 censuses, the town population has been relatively consistent, around 12,000 residents, and about a third of them are under 18. There's no age limit on the survey, but if we're considering if we got 2/3 of the population then filled out the survey, the adult population, if we got 8,000 residents and we got 10% of that, that would be a really great response, and that would be 800 responses. So we're not there yet. I think it's my recommendation would be to keep the survey open. There's no reason not to, and just keep checking in and see how we're doing, and keep encouraging residents in the community to fill it out. There was, there was a question amongst our group as to whether or not we should consider mailing the survey out. So I think that's potentially worth a discussion either offline or online if the group thinks it's relevant enough and we have enough time. But I think we're doing pretty well with the digital surveys, and I don't know if any paper surveys have come back. I did check a couple of the post offices and I didn't see any responses come back or dropped off yet. So I don't know if any of the other volunteers in the group have received some written surveys returned. If so-
Larry, I'll chime in here. I do
Mhm.
have 20 to manually enter. Most are from Charlene, and I've gone to the library twice, so I have about 20 to enter.
To enter. Okay, great. So that takes us well over 300 responses, which is, I think, a great response, and we'll keep at it.
Great.
And
John-
does anyone need any paper copies? Let me
John,
know.
you were on mute. Were you going to say something about the Vista post office?
Yeah, I went to the Vista one to check and the envelopes were gone.
Oh, really? Bummer.
Yeah.
Any indication if the post office took them down?
No, I checked with the post office before I put them there, so they were okay with it, so.
Huh. Okay. I think we just put them back up. Any other ideas?
No, I mean, I did the Golden's Bridge a couple of times and I refilled the Golden's Bridge and the Cross River. I can handle the Cross River to see if any are there in the future, but Golden's Bridge would be hard for me to check. I just started a new job.
Okay,
Yeah.
so any volunteers well, first, John, can you work with Kirsten to get new envelopes and just put them back up and we'll hope
Sure.
for the best?
Yeah, I can, whenever they're ready, I can pick them up and put them back down there.
Okay, great, thank you. And any volunteers to check for somebody to go to the Golden's Bridge post office on a, every other week kind of basis and check on the surveys there? Do we have any? Oh, great, Mark, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Hey, John, can we put, when you walk into next to the post office in Vista, the grocery store, Greenwich Produce?
I
they've got-
put some in there.
Okay,
I know the manager pretty well, so he said I
Okay.
could put them on the, but I didn't see any return there either, so.
Oh, okay. So John, you're checking on both of those locations?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Katie, what do you think? Can we do town parks? Like the different town parks? Can we put them, like, right by me, there's a town park with an old schoolhouse that's used by the Boy Scouts in Vista. And there's an actual building right there. I mean, can we put it like somehow use that structure in that town park? Because a lot of people collect there, park there for baseball games and stuff.
Let's absolutely put a flyer up.
There's a pegboard too. There's like a Lewisboro board where they announce like the fireworks and stuff.
Yeah, let's put a flyer up there for sure. Would you do that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we want to keep the collection points of paper surveys just to what we've advertised on the flyer. But hey, if anybody wants to put up a flyer anywhere.
Yeah, I want to, along these lines, I wanted to just jump in here and make a suggestion, because I think it is, it is very easy to fill out the survey, even from like a phone.
Right.
I tried it when we were doing the beta testing. It is easy to do. So long as you keep your written responses to a minimum. Most of the responses are multiple choice, but there are some open-ended questions. But it is very easy to do. And maybe rather than posting or leaving paper surveys around town, we already have multiple locations that cover all parts of town for the paper surveys. Maybe it would be a good idea to put up flyers, and
Absolutely.
the link to the code is the link to the website. It's like a long link. You couldn't really type it into your phone or laptop very easily, but we could get a QR code and put that on a flyer. And then somebody can just take their phone and open up their camera application, put it on the QR code, tap the screen, and it should go right to the link. So
Good
that
idea.
might be something that we want to do. I know not everybody knows how to use a QR code, but if we put a little very short instruction like I just described in the flyer, that might help us with our responses, and that would be a simple thing that we could leave off at a grocery store bulletin board.
Yeah, or just send them to the town website, because that's easy enough to do.
Yeah. Does
Exactly.
somebody want to volunteer to add the QR code to? I can send the file the flyer.
I think I have to download it. I think it's easily downloadable from the site that we're using for our surveys, the service. So let
Oh,
me
okay,
download
great.
the QR code and I will circulate it to the group.
Okay, I'll send you the Word document of the flyer, Larry.
What did we put at Onatru? Because it appears to be a lot of activity at Onatru, at least this week. There's a lot of, I think there's a camp going on there. I just see a lot of cars there.
Yeah, let's put a flyer there. Do you want to, are you volunteering to put a flyer up there, John?
Yeah, when I pick up the stuff from Kirsten, I can.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
um,
I think we're all in agreement. Flyers should go everywhere and anywhere you would like to post them, but collection of paper surveys should stay just at the locations where they already are, where we agreed from up front, is to keep that consistent and tight. To Larry's point about a mailer, obviously we want to keep costs as low as possible, and we want to direct people to the actual web version of the survey wherever possible. So perhaps we could just have a postcard with an announcement about the survey sent out, and I'll add this to the list for Jane and Dan to come back to later on in the meeting. But if you could just give us a sense of what we would, obviously we as a committee would decide we would want to do it, and then what would be our next steps? How would we approach the board about getting?
And I think you'd want the QR code on the
Yes.
postcard if you could do it.
Yeah, just a very simple postcard sent to every household with the QR code with an announcement to please visit the website, take the survey. And if you do need to get a paper copy, then here are the locations where you can do that.
And then we could put on the town website how to use a QR code.
Can I just poll the committee in terms of sending out a postcard to residents? As show of hands, is that something folks would be interested in to boost the response rate?
Yeah, I'd like to see what the costs are versus, depending on the cost. Mailers usually aren't, I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience, but my guess is they're not that cheap, so.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yes,
But I think the postcard is a good idea. That should be
Yeah.
much cheaper.
Larry, any final remarks about the survey?
I don't think I have any final remarks. Just to reiterate what I just said, I think we're on a good track. We keep getting the word out. We'll continue getting responses. But if we were to discontinue the survey today, I think we have a good representation of the community. But that's not what I would recommend. I would recommend let's keep it open. Let's keep receiving responses, and the more that we get, the better. Sending out a postcard, I do think that's just another way also, aside from the survey, just to get the word out that the town is working on this and we're looking for public input, and it's a long public process.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for your work on the survey, Larry. And thank you everybody for visiting the post offices and making sure that the paper surveys get attention as well. And I'm really excited about the response rate. I think it's awesome. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how high we can get it, because we want as much input as possible before we even hire the consultant. That way the consultants have a really strong foundation to build off of. So way to go, everybody. With that, we can move on to the next topic, which is, I'll kick it to you, Charlene, for an update on the RFP for finding the consultant.
Well, the RFP is basically done. I think there are a few issues that I've been working with Katie on, and also with Janet. Hopefully I will get some in return from Judd and Jan on their look-see of it. And hopefully I'll have it ready for the 26th to formally give to the town board. So they may in turn look at it and give it to the PBA, to the planning board, zoning board, and architectural review board for formal comment. I think that we had spoken about putting in something that we may find in the survey. I'm rethinking that, and I agree with Larry wholeheartedly that we should, to the very end, till we pick the consultant, if we need to put that survey out, because the more information we have that we can turn over to them, the better it is. I'm also compiling a list of possible consultants. And these are people that I've used or I've sent out. And of course, whoever else wants to add to that list, that's fine. We have to decide on a date after the 26th or at the 26th. We have to decide on a date that everything shuts down and we send out the RFP. We also have to decide on, let's say we send it out in September, how long we'll need to have it out there, and what we do with the responses. Because we will have to have a committee to interview these people.
Great. But the timeline for that is
Yeah, that's far in the future.
awesome. Does anybody have questions for Charlene?
I agree, by the way, we should keep the survey opening until we have a consultant, because there's no reason not to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Jane, I saw you raise your hand. If it's particular for the RFP, go for it.
Charlene, how many people do you think makes a good sized committee for something like that?
Smaller the better.
Okay.
Yeah, it's once you get into that, everybody then sort of, and remember their recommendations. We get the proposal, the town board will get all the proposals to review. And we solely, as a committee, we solely make a recommendation. So, I think that somebody from the planning board, from the zoning board, and from the architectural review board, John and myself are both on. Janet is obviously somebody that has to be on, and limited to that. I mean, these are people that work with it on a consistent, obviously the steering committee, but these are people that work on a consistent basis. They work with the comprehensive plan. I mean, you may think of someone you would want from like the building inspector official. I don't really know how the town works with the individuals, but that's what I would suggest, and keep it as small as possible so that we can, have our recommendations ready in some kind of reasonable time period.
I'm assuming that Jan Johansson is not one of the people we'd hire, but he would probably be a good resource in that.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we sent everything to him. Hopefully we'll get some feedback.
Because his firm is not going to be responding.
No.
Nope, he doesn't want to.
Charlene, is there a state bid list or a protocol for, publishing the RFP, through a platform?
What I did was I published it, like it obviously it's going to be on the website. You send it to consultants that you've heard of or their work, and then you put it on the APA and the New York State Planning Committee, the accreditation places,
Great.
because that's where the planners will look.
Yeah. So it'll
They're
get
not going to look in the Times,
good. Good. So it will get lots of eyeballs regardless of who we send it to directly.
Yeah, we could put in an ICMA, the city managers, but it really does include village managers, etc. So we can put it in that. If you want to, we can put it in the town. I know you have an association for the towns. We can put it in that.
Great. Thank you so much for your work on it, Charlene. We're really glad that we have you and the ins and outs of how this kind of thing works. So
Well,
thank you for
hopefully.
all your knowledge here.
Thank you.
Any final remarks about the RFP before we move on to the grant?
Nope.
Okay, I'm sure John can use the extra time. So I give you the floor. Just give us a quick status update, but then I'll stop sharing my screen if you, or
I really don't have anything to show you at this point.
okay.
I sent out, I downloaded what I had. I sent it out to everybody.
Yeah.
It's not something it really fits going on the screen. After Charlene's success story, I can't say that I have one to match.
Well, you've done great so far. You've filled out a lot.
Yeah, but I think that this grant committee ought to give themselves some money to update their process, because this is the crudest thing I've ever encountered in years. I think I also sent out a note on the things that I do not have the knowledge to fill out, and there are a number of those. So that's one thing. Number two, if you look at the questions carefully, they are very slanted to a couple of things. One is job growth, enabling the poor, and building up downtowns. All of these are not things that we are going to score very high on. I'm not even sure we can really put in an answer on some of these things. So, yeah, Charlene.
I think that on a first attempt, like anything we put in is good, because what they do when they say no, and they always say no the first time, you have a representative from the state who will speak to you, and they will lead you to the areas where you could have done better and what would have been a good answer as opposed to a bad answer.
Yeah, I mean, some of these are basically going to have to say no.
That's okay.
Yeah, and it also asks, we have to have letters of recommendation. There's a number of other things. So it's,
Can you get it from the school?
well, I think we can get them from the school.
Yeah, those things you get from the school, you get from, a Chamber of Commerce, places like that. Of course, the town board is in favor of it.
I mean, the thing is, we're down to 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
So,
It's truly, John, it's a great thing to have it in for the first time, because
yeah,
that'll give us a indication of what we have to do next time. And this is a long process, so we're going to get into next year's routine.
yeah. So
I do have we have 35 more minutes on the agenda. We could open, I can just bring up the PDF and we can look at some of the particularly challenging questions all together as a group and sort of group write them. Would that be helpful?
yeah, I mean, clearly in terms of letters and recommendations, things like that, I'm going to need some help on those things. So
Mm-hmm.
the town board has to kind of verify that they agreed to do this.
So I think one thing that might be helpful, sorry, can I interject?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. One thing that might be helpful is if we want to use this time to bring up the email that John sent and have action items for Dan and I.
Yeah.
I know letters of recommendation, I remember reading that, and you need a letter of recommendation from the town board. And were there other letters of recommendation that you needed, or just one from the town board?
They said letters of recommendation. They didn't really specify anything.
Okay.
It's good to have it from various aspects, since it's a comprehensive plan from the businesses, not one business, but whatever business group there exists, if in fact there
Chamber of
exists.
Commerce.
And, your committees, do you have an affordable housing committee?
Okay.
That would be something that you could have
So
in that vein.
the pedestrian bike advisory committee.
Yep, that's why I'm saying the school would be good.
The school,
The
like
school
you want a
board,
letter of recommend or a letter of support from KLSD.
yes.
Okay.
If you can get it, if it's too much
Yeah.
trouble, yeah. It's all these. any
Trouble, I
genetic-
just might, yeah, it's late, like John said, there's 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's the summer and they're not there. Yeah, you're
OSPAC,
right.
OSPAC, prac, got it. Okay. Well, I
imagine-
am happy to take responsibility for reaching out for that.
I can give you one from the CAC.
Thanks, John.
Was
How about
that
that a conflict?
Charlene, planning board, ACARC, do I hear ACARC? Okay, just kidding. You'll all be hearing from me.
is that I was trying to find the email in the background. Is that good, or do you want to go deeper on action items? Did
I
that
mean, if you
answer?
want to spend some time, there were just some that I think we're going to have to get creative on.
Yeah, but Jane, that answered your question in terms of action items for you and Dan.
At least for me, I mean, I don't need to take on any more, but I
Yeah,
certainly.
Dan.
So I just had a question that I had put out. I remember you saying that the limit for this grant was like $40,000 or something like that.
The limit is 100,000. If you go over that, you're disqualified. I looked at previous years what comprehensive plans got, and they were very low. So I arbitrarily chose a strategy of not going for the $100,000. I think some of them were like 14,000. So I just went with we can certainly change that. My budget is very simple.
So my my second half of that question was to say, I imagine that the grant authorities will want to know sort of what this is paying for, which I was saying, well, is there a particular piece of all this activity that can be cordoned off and some estimates made that will map to the kinds of numbers you're talking about? Is that necessary even in your?
Well, I had to put in a budget spreadsheet, and it has 2 line items so far. It has $40,000 for the consultant and $3,000 for the survey.
So it'd be, so you're saying 40,000 for the consultant, but the consultant's going to be a lot more than that.
It's going to be 150 according to thing, and if I put that in, we're done.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So is it okay? You have $40,000. Is it okay to say it's partial? It's
Yeah,
partial.
I think you should put in the 150, and then we're asking for 40 for, some of the.
Yeah, I mean, the spreadsheet is just that, a spreadsheet. It doesn't have any place to
Okay,
comment
so
on.
I mean, that's actually, and it relates to what a town board resolution might read, right? I assume we would want to have some reference to what the grant is.
Yeah, I mean, I can put in any number you want. I just arbitrarily took a strategy.
No, I mean, I go with your judgment around sort of the scale and what's the right ask. I'm just trying, if we're going to do a resolution, I just want it to be useful to you so that it's, it says the right things.
Right. You'll notice, by the way, that this this process doesn't have spell check.
Oh, right.
No
judgment.
Well, I use actually voice dictation on this thing, and my dictation can't figure out Lewisboro.
Now, regular updates.
Well, that's smart. Do you want to direct us to section where you could use a group think?
Yeah, let me.
When I can.
The ones that I thought were challenging was the areas where they talk about downtown, where they talk about enabling, giving power to poor people or disadvantaged people. Those are the ones that I think we're going to have a difficult time with.
Like this one, will the proposed project foster mixed land uses, compact development, downtown, commercial?
Yeah, and they're particularly given what's going on in the last year and a half, there's a lot of emphasis on job growth, especially for the disadvantaged.
Well, we are going to look at the hamlets and any growth that can be looked at on our commercial capacity and also on mixed use.
Oh, okay. Then let's as an example, just to get specific, how about that, the one that said mixed use, I thought was a good one too.
And I think that Mark brought this up a while ago
Yeah, this
about reuse of properties,
one.
and that there's going to be a study or at least a look-see at the reuse of properties, which will enhance, which may enhance development, commercial development, and, you know, mixed use and maybe some housing.
Okay, yeah,
Some
perfect.
housing.
So will your project foster mixed land uses? So the answer is yes. It's just not in sort of the city way that you would think of typically. So we could say yes.
Yeah, I think we have to, because they had downtown commercial development. We don't have downtown, we have hamlets. So if we say that each hamlet is going to be looked at individually in, so that commercial development and integration of income and age groups through mixed use can be used.
Did you say income through mixed use?
Individually, so that commercial development, we look at the hamlets individually, so that the commercial development and the integration of income groups and age groups be accomplished through mixed use.
That's good.
It's all baloney stuff right now because we don't know what we're doing.
Right.
Cool, I like that. Does anybody want to expand on that with another sentence?
Yeah, you probably only get about one more sentence. This thing limits your characters
All
severely.
right.
I tried to grab your RFP introduction, Charlene, and it wouldn't let I had to cut it down.
Yeah, I blah, blah, blah a little bit.
So like here, does your project advance downtown revitalization and strategic community investment? No, not in the traditional sense, but
Again, we say hamlets.
yes. And then for
And
our town,
we're looking at the hamlets for commercial development and the reuse of properties. Because there's going to be a study done on that, right? That's going to be looked at.
most likely.
Adaptive reuse.
Adaptive, okay, that's the language.
No, thank you. Adaptive. Okay. What else? Let's see another question.
There was one on workforce development programs.
Workforce. This one?
Yeah,
Improve.
12,000 people, Lane.
Well, but it's interesting. It says also improve physical infrastructure, establish social services, industry growth areas.
Yeah, well, connect social services. Maybe we can use because we're looking at keeping the older population in place. So maybe we can use that as a hook.
well.
You can
we-
also repeat yourself.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Maybe we can introduce our affordable housing ideas in here.
Well, I think it would be accurate to say that the project or the committee or whatever will be looking for resident engagement to determine how affordable housing, how, if at all, affordable housing, seen aging in place, like
yeah, and also there's one thing I know in Cross River, and I know it's been discussed before, but I think you can use it here. I'm not quite sure how, but we'll get the words. The parking areas that are in back of all those, all the Cross River center, and it's behind the Camerons and this and that. They're not all connected. And I think there may be an ability to connect them a little better. So there is more parking and more of an ability to use them for different kinds of retail.
Well, I think we can say in this area too, is one of our focuses area is quality of life.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Are we looking to make areas more of social gathering places?
Um,
That'll
Because that's a big thing. Open space social gathering.
Well, I mean, we've talked about a senior center for years. It's never been.
I think, I think over here, what would be the emphasis is really like, let's say you look at the hamlet and there is like Cross River. Is there an area that you can allow for increased outdoor dining? Because that's going to, or increased gathering places and working with the owners of the property.
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of done that in Cross River down in the corner where they put chairs and things
Right.
like that. So we could talk about.
Right, and integrate that with the parking too. To have more of common parking areas, which is an infrastructure issue, actually. And also to enhance social gathering areas.
Okay, sorry, I was writing that sentence. Did I miss something in this connectivity? Okay, I just wanted to put that in, whether or not it goes in the grant or not, just,
Yeah.
I know we all know this, but it bears saying publicly that ultimately what the town's vision, what the residents' vision is collectively will be what ends up in the long-term plan. And it's our job to gather it and have the consultant synthesize it into actionable recommendations for the town. So just couching that, I don't know if that matters for the grant specifically or not, but it
No,
just,
I think
John,
what we're trying to do now is just fill in the spaces because we're not going to get this grant this year, but we want to be ready for next year.
absolutely.
is there any question that we can use the issue of broadband and increased ability for the utilities?
Well, this last one talked about infrastructure, so you could.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They always like collaborative efforts, and if you use the study that they did in the towns, in the adjoining villages and towns,
Right.
If you use that to say that is going to be looked at in our comprehensive plan, and we're working with the regional area. Because they always like.
Yeah, I'll look through and see if there's a place we can stick that.
Yeah, because anything collaborative.
Right. What other tricky buzzwords should I put in the search bar?
Environmental issues. Are you looking for?
Yeah, those we can. Those I filled in, and we're
okay.
The town's done things in that regard. We manage wetlands and all, and we always look at those.
Right.
Yeah, the key things are anything about workforce, empowering the poor, enabling the poor. Those are the ones that got a little tricky.
I don't remember the census on our socioeconomic.
Yeah, I don't remember it either, but the other thing I haven't done yet is we have to align with the regional strategy, and I haven't gone out and found that yet.
The regional strategy, we have a couple. We have the Croton plan, which is a watershed that we work, basically say we work with the county on watershed issues.
There's
And-
a specific website with a specific Mid-Hudson regional strategy. on
Yeah.
it. So I gotta go find that.
It's like live, work, and play. I mean,
Yeah.
that's way watered down, but that's what it is. It's
Right.
live, work, and play. And any time that you can talk about employment opportunities and how this might, like maybe a comprehensive plan would lead to more town employees being necessary for whatever. So I think anytime that you can show, that it might create jobs is good. And you just have to be creative.
Well, again, if we talk about our attempt to vitalize the hamlets, that could be job creation. as well.
Mhm.
There is a New York State, well, it's not New York State, but it's called the Regional Plan Association. And their website is rpa.org. And they recently, like within the last year, did a significant study and came out with recommendations for lower Hudson Valley, which includes the town of Lewisboro, it includes New Jersey and Connecticut. One of the things it was looking at is where the most logical place is for workforce housing to go within the region as the core gets developed. And it actually did target the hamlets up and down the Harlem River line, and Golden's Bridge is certainly one of those. So the Regional Plan Association might be one of those groups that we partner with.
That's really good to know.
Yeah, if you got a link, send it along.
Yep, will do. I'll send the link to the study, but the link to the group is rpa.org. And then also, I mean, anything we do, we're going to be coordinating with New York City DEP. We're going to be coordinating with the watershed organizations, which overlap with the town boundaries as well. But
And the county.
And the county. So I'll send that link for the Regional Plan Association study. It's very lengthy, but the executive summary is a couple of pages and very interesting.
Yeah, I would say that if you want to spend a few minutes and pick one of the ones that hasn't been answered and just send me some thoughts, I'll enter them in because I think I'm the only one that can do that. This is such a crude website. Every time you go in, you start at question 1 again. I mean, your old answers are there, but you have to work your way through all the pages to get to where you want to go. So they need a grant to fix themselves.
Thank you so much for the work you're putting into this, John. This is clearly quite an undertaking. So thank you so much. And please, I mean, we do still have some time. I don't know if folks have any juice left for going through specific questions, but we could also end 15 minutes early and then why don't we do that? Why don't we end 15 minutes early and then we can each spend a little bit of time just going through. Does everybody have the PDF that John sent? Okay, great. Just go through and find a question that catches your eye that isn't answered yet and just give John some ideas or some language.
Yeah, I mean, I think Charlene's right. We're going to just get something in.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing I need from the town is, and I think Dan answered, is somebody, probably our town controller, has got to be the one who actually signs off on this thing. And I have to put his contact information in.
There's also, you're going to have a town board resolution
Yeah,
or letter because they want to know that the town approves of it, even though the town is applying for it.
yeah, so we'll need.
They don't want any rogue people doing it.
Would the resolution creating our steering committee suffice, or do they need to pass a new one that specifically supports the grant?
I don't know. It doesn't necessarily have to be a resolution. It just has to be a letter in support that the board supports this grant.
Okay, then that's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, awesome.
So just to mention, inspired by Dan Welsh, I reached out to the project for public spaces and to inquire as to if they have any advisory or inspirational or consultative services that might help inform our project. And so they're all about placemaking. And so that's kind of a key term in modern planning. So we have reached out to the Project for Public Spaces, seeking their advice on placemaking. So if that has any relevance to this application.
I think that's early in the process. And actually, they'll be very, very helpful when we do an implementation program. Because we don't really know what, I mean, we did talk about social gathering, but you can't be really too specific as to, placemaking.
Mhm.
'Cause we don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very valuable in the end of the process, but I don't know how valuable it would be in a grant application.
Well, Mark, whatever resources you get, definitely share it with us. And if they come through with any good readings or webinars or anything like that, we could always, kind of loop in and have sort of general education for us and for the public. So yeah, keep us.
I'm just, as it relates to looking over John's application. So, yes, we are looking for opportunities for adaptive reuse. Yes, we are looking for appropriate applications of placemaking theory within our community.
Yeah.
Just, high level initiatives that we're looking to evaluate and implement in our process.
I gotcha.
I think what you have to say, though, that the comprehensive plan will look to that in conjunction with the residents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rather than say that that's what we're looking at, because we can't say that at this point.
Yeah, well, up front, there's a question that says, how are you involving the community? And
Right.
that was easy to answer because we are.
Right. But it's good that you repeated that, you don't have a mindset on what we're doing.
Right. Well, and we are from the community. We're not professionals or
Yeah.
elected or anything else.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for all your input, everybody. Any last thoughts about the grant? And we'll end early and let everybody spend some time looking through and send John some help.
Yeah, so whatever you captured, Kate, just send it along and I'll fill it in, as long as it's less than 850 characters per section.
Okay. Great. Charlene?
This is for Dan and Jane. When you send out RFPs, do you pass a resolution saying that you're sending out an RFP, or do you just agree to do an RFP?
We generally don't necessarily do resolutions for it, I don't think, right?
I don't think you should. I think you should just
Yeah.
approve it at one point or another as a board and send it and have it sent out to who we agree to.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it might just be, you're giving your recommendation, we're all looking at it and we discuss it and it's a sense of the board, but
Right.
it's just that's maybe semantics. Like we might decide someone will just throw out a resolution and we'll do that. So I don't know that matters.
I think it's a bad precedent, because once you do it, then why didn't you do it on this one? Why didn't you do it on that one? I asked, what is your regular routine on it? That's all. Because it's not, because remember, it's just a request for proposal. You don't have to do anything with it.
That's right. Yeah. So if it was like the grant application, we need the resolution, I think is probably a good thing. Or no, we have done that before.
Okay. So whatever you've done before. And that's why I asked, because I in places I've worked, the RFP just went out.
Yeah. Well, I guess I should say if if you guys are submitting the grant, hitting the button, then maybe it's good to have a resolution. I won't say that other grants have been put in by people without resolutions. So
Okay, whatever
I
you
don't know.
do, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not talking about a board with a incredibly rigorous set of processes necessarily. So
Yeah,
Well,
but you don't want to change your, right, if you do
Yeah.
the RFP like all the time, it's if you've already done it both ways, then it doesn't matter. But if you.
I mean, if it's
send out
something where
the
there's a commitment to it and there's a dollars attached to it, then there
Yeah.
should be a board decision. If it's a RFP and you're not committed, then
Not committed to
right,
anything.
agree, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that if we did it standardly for RFPs, I would immediately know that because we'd be doing it all the time. Obviously, we do them to accept a bid. And
Yeah.
we do need, I don't know that we need, but we have as practice done resos for a grant.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You
especially
have to have a reso to accept the
committee,
grant.
right?
You have to have a resolution to accept the grant, but
But not to apply.
not necessarily. It depends on what but in accepting the grant, you have to do that on the record.
Yeah, right. I still think that we usually,
Yeah, whatever you do is fine.
I mean, in this case, if we're like looking for letters and support and all this stuff, doesn't a resolution like sound a little stronger than just like, oh yeah, they,
Yeah, if you can get it done, that would be great.
Yeah. Is that
Sure.
something you could pass at your next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it just has to be 3 lines.
Yeah, you'd have to pass it at the next meeting because it has to be in by then.
Well, we'll put that on your to-do list if you don't mind.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, I think in the meanwhile, what they did to kick this off is probably sufficient, if maybe not the strongest thing. But
Right. Okay, great. Well, let's give the floor to Jane and Dan for the next 15 minutes, just to answer the open questions that you heard throughout the meeting and pose any other discussion topics that you want to hear.
so as for the town board meeting, I was wondering if we could do a little bit of both. Like, I wonder if we could have you, Katie, and I guess we'd have to talk to Joel, like Skype you in or Zoom you in. I don't really know how that would work, especially with us broadcasting to YouTube. But then also if anybody from the committee is available and would, make themselves available to come for, 10 minutes, I think is totally appropriate. That's actually quite a bit of time when you're packing it with information, right? But for the question and answer period, or just to help facilitate Katie and the audience. So that's kind of what I was thinking. It seems doable. Dan?
Yeah, 10 minutes is fine, and I don't think it'll be hard to organize that, make
do
it
you have
productive.
hybrid capability? I saw in the minutes that you don't really for the town board meeting.
So, sorry.
Do you have hybrid capability? I didn't.
Oh,
think-
I don't think we've really worked that out yet.
Yeah, I
there's-
meant more like Katie would be a presence, and I'm not like on my laptop, but I'm not really sure that would work interactionally or presentation style. So no, we don't have a virtual platform that anybody can join.
Right. Well, I'll take that offline and I'll coordinate with
You
somebody.
don't have like a projector,
Yeah, I mean, clearly we could jerry rig something with a projector and a computer, and
I don't
Right.
think it's
I
necessary.
mean, I know the library has one, so.
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
want to go through all that trouble. We'll figure out who will go in person. Now, when you say question and answer, do you envision that there'll be a prepared remarks and then Q&A period for the board or the public attending?
yeah, that was what I was imagining.
Okay. Board and public?
Board, you mean Q&A from,
Open.
well, I mean, definitely from the board, I would expect that
Yeah, no problem.
we could ask questions. And then the public, I think that we can go ahead and take that offline as well about how we want to facilitate that. I mean, if it's more of like a public comment period after the presentation, or if, you know, we just make it clear that people can speak to it at the public comment or something like that.
Or how we could
So we
ask
can get
people
the
to,
feedback if people have feedback, right? Because we're looking to get as much of that input as possible. So a public meeting seems like a,
Yeah, if you had maybe just the 10 minutes with the board question and then the public comment period, you don't answer them. So you just.
correct.
So they
so
don't get
we
in.
could potentially ask people to email questions before the session and then pick them out and go through them one by one.
Whatever you think works for you guys. I mean, we could prepare like a 2-minute prepared remarks and then have 8 minutes of Q&A with the board, and then everyone will have heard that so they can comment on it later on in the public.
What I would suggest maybe is we look at how much we want to say, what's the timing on that? Whatever's left is the Q&A period.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just an informational. We don't have that much.
Yeah.
to
Yeah, and
say.
I know,
There's no substantive aspect to this.
I doubt the board's gonna have 8 minutes of questions either. I mean,
Right.
you know, Jane and I have been following along, and the other folks, you know, really, how much is there a question? I don't know.
I mean, there may be questions because I know transparency has been a big issue amongst some people. And I guess they will have questions as to that. Like, is the RFP going to be looked at? And yeah, you could look at it because it's
Okay.
gonna be online. I mean, like, you know.
Yeah, it's gonna go in these public systems and all
Right.
that.
And how was it developed? Well, it was developed by all of us, and it was geared towards having the public
Okay,
be
so maybe there are
involved in that program, in
questions,
the
yeah.
project. I mean, that's,
Okay,
Mhm.
well, that's all helpful. I kind of
I think we should
know what
emphasize.
to expect. So this is very helpful in fleshing out sort of.
I think we should emphasize that coming attractions is we're going to be forming committees from people in town, so they have their opportunity to be true participants, not just listening to us.
yes.
Because we want to have people thinking about, you know, I saw we already have one person volunteer.
Mhm.
So I
There'll
think
be a lot of the same information from our
Right.
GP presentation.
We should have a realistic timeline, though. We're not forming committees before we have the consultant.
Right.
No, I don't, but I think we just want to plant the seed that we want their participation.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point.
Not too formally, but just putting it out there so they start thinking about it.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, not to eat into your time, please, Jane, continue, and then we got to pass it off to Dan. But I think we'll work on that presentation. But that's clear what you're looking for.
And the second thing that you had asked us about was how to go about money for a mailing. I think a postcard is a great idea, and I think like just cost it out and ask us for the money.
It'd be a couple $1,000,
Okay.
you know.
Thank you.
And you guys have a budget, and if you deem now to be like the time to kick something like that in, then it's good. Just ask. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
I would only maybe add that further to the inspiration from Dan comment, that I think the project for public spaces connection, I would go back again to the idea that while we're executing all the sort of build up to the RFP and the consultant process, and then kicking into that, there's an opportunity to, in sort of parallel, run a few events that don't ask people to come and like make decisions about the town but are just general educational events, so that when they get to this session, you know, where the consultant's calling them in and they're doing whatever whiteboarding and they're breaking out groups and everything, people have some tools that they've brought to that already. And so, for example, we could engage the project for public spaces to come in and do a fun workshop on placemaking.
Yeah,
Just
do
know
it.
what it is, you know, and you know, just, I mean, they get some fee for that, and they'll organize it, and we just need to provide a venue and the rest of that. But I think a couple of fun things like this along the way keep people engaged. You know, you're doing your thing, they have a chance to sort of be part of something and learning a few things. I think that would be fun.
If the town board wants to do it, I don't think it should be the steering committee at this point, but
That's
if the
fine.
town board wants to do it, then whatever you want to do, you do.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Well,
We can definitely, I mean, if. So
Well, I'm offering to help facilitate that. Why do you mean it shouldn't be our committee, Charlene? Why should we not be doing it?
I think that it gives a sort of a focus on something that we don't know whether it should be focused on or not. You
Well,
know,
it's conceptual. It's not specific to a place. It's the concept of placemaking.
if you want to do it,
It's a charrette, right, Dan? I mean, it's a design. It's a.
I mean, I don't know the different formats of, like, I mean, they've been doing this for years and years, coming to places and. doing
it's
things, you know.
not, it's not coming to places,
Yeah.
it's us doing it before we have a consultant, because we're not having something like that. Town board can do that, but a steering committee that we responsible to put together an RFP, choose a consultant and work with them, we are sort of getting ahead of ourselves with that. The town board can do it, and I think it would be very valuable, but personally, I don't think it would be a steering committee issue.
I'm unfamiliar with what placemaking is. Is it, I think what I'm hearing Charlene say is that the steering committee doesn't want to be seen as making any kind of recommendation or steering anything in a particular direction. But is this the kind of thing that could be like way high level and doesn't actually apply to specific recommendations? I just don't know.
I mean, I'm sure they're going to give you examples of you know, here's this community and they had these different, you know, civic elements, and they were looking for a way to sort of tie them together that in a way that sort of represented them and you know, could get them to a place where they thought they, you know, and how they solicited from the public, like, you know, their thoughts about what their place actually meant, and you know, things like that. It's like an
Dan, if
exercise.
we start doing that, then we're
This
sort
is
of
a quick definition I found, Katie, online. This is a quick definition I found of placemaking. Placemaking is a zeitgeist word right now.
Okay.
I think. I don't think it's very specific.
it doesn't matter. I think it's a place that the
That's
town
just-
board should get people thinking about, but we're choosing a consultant to focus people, and they're going to have their own way. So if the town board does it, they'll, you know, get the thought in their mind, and then the steering committee in conjunction with the consultant that's hired will then develop that in the way it should be developed.
You know, I think that's,
Let me give another example. Like the, you know, Pace Land Use Center does their land use training sessions you're very familiar with, and they're, you know, they can customize them. They're, you know, 2 half-day sessions, or they're whatever they are, but they help, you know, they bring a group of people together, and they run through different exercises to help them sort of learn how to discuss these things and you know, envision yourself as the other, you know, some other group of people, and how they interact, and you know, that was a very positive thing, and it was absolutely not specific to you know, oh, we need crosswalk in this
Again, because if the steering committee will be there, and then certain questions will come up, because you're always getting specific questions that you have to say, well, this is not specific, we're not going there. And that's not something that I want to be particularly involved in, so that we have it, aside from you guys, like you guys can do it. And I think it's
Right.
very valuable, keeps everybody thinking, but we should not be associated with something, that the town is doing, and we should not do it ourselves, because I don't think we're prepared for it.
Yeah, but on the other side of that, and I think this is a strategy question for us, is we need to we have to decide, but do we need to get people thinking out of the box a little bit? Because I think if there isn't some informational things like what Dan's talking about or some other ones, we're not going to get those creative thoughts and ideas. We're going to go right back where we were in 1985 in a lot of ways.
John, you're right. That's why it's great for the town board to do it. It's, are we necessitating doing it as a steering committee?
Well, this is just a singular advisory educational presentation. It's a conceptual.
Okay, I'm one vote.
It's philosophical, but the five of us were appointed, and we have some agency and some interest in advancing the dialogue. The appointment of a consultant is really, as I see it, a helping to codify and organize and create a document for us, but we're not positing all of the responsibility to come up with innovative concepts and to develop the plan in that singular consultant. And I do think we have agency to help inspire the community and engage the community and inform each other. I mean, that's what our committee is. We're an advisory committee. So I think that's what we are here. I do think we have the agency to host events and to host a dialogue or a presentation. I wouldn't, we're not enacting any legislation.
Well, there seems to be no strategy to that. It's like, oh, if somebody wants to talk, we'll get places and we'll talk and everybody will give their ideas. And then we have to get it to a point that the consultant can incorporate it. I personally don't have that time.
Well, let's pause right here. I think what is just happening is that there's confusion, and rightfully so, because we're just talking about this now, about what exactly this would look like. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't, if you want to explore what this kind of session would look like and send around sort of your thoughts, and we can liaise with Dan because he's excited about it. Like, let's just get something down on paper for what it would look like, and then we can actually have an informed discussion about what.
I think this is an ongoing process. I mean, think of it like a town movie night. It's an opportunity. It's one of our forms of community outreach and education. But I think you'd find it just as inspirational as the meetings we attended with the Regional Plan Authority, for example.
Right, yeah. So I think it's definitely worth just putting down on paper some ideas about what it would look like, and then we can actually, because it definitely fits with our mission of getting people excited. Just the content is what we have to look at and discuss as a group.
Well, to Charlene's point, there's no reason why we can't formulate a strategy for these kind of things. So it's not random, but there are certain areas that we've kind of already said we want to look at. And within those areas, there's a lot of information we don't have. And we want to be able, I think, to Mark's point, we want to be able to test the consultant somewhat and bring these ideas forward and say, what do you think? Is this something doable? Is it not doable? Or we waste, so I think it wouldn't hurt to kind of take this concept, but put a strategy to it.
Yeah. Larry, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, we're spending a bit of time talking about this. I did work with PPS, Project for Public Spaces, earlier in my career. They're definitely, for decades, have been like recognized thought leaders, but they are, very specialized in, what they're thinking and what they're promoting. But I don't see why PPS and other, thought leaders, maybe they can be incorporated as kind of a kickoff, like educational section of this, whatever the consultant that we hire would do. Maybe the consultant curates some thought leaders to kind of kick off the outreach and to the community. And I'm just wondering if maybe we should just go back to the RFQ and maybe think about including something like that, or maybe that could be something that when we're interviewing the consultants, we could ask them who would they bring in to help educate the community, because I do think it's not just like they're very specialized and maybe we just don't want them. Maybe it's like a group of different thought leaders. Maybe there's some planners that specialize in rural spaces, and I don't know what the answer is, because I'm not that well versed in planning field, but I do know that they're kind of specialized, more like city focused. Not to say that a lot of what they have to say couldn't apply to different parts of Lewisboro and the Hamlet centers, because they do focus on like form-based architecture, I think, as well, which is something that we talked about. So I'm just wondering if maybe it's not, maybe it's part of a larger program and we try to work that into like a planned, organized.
That would make a lot more sense, because like if you get into form-based zoning, I mean, that's something like really a big change.
So just to be clear, I think the hiring of a consultant is to help us guide and edit and ultimately publish a document. But we are not positing and all of the anticipating that the consultant is going to develop all of the content for our community.
No, the public is going to develop a lot of the content in conjunction with our input and the town board ultimately.
Right. So just as Larry helped us get going with the survey, so that we could sort of help frame some of our initiative and get started. I think there are things that we will have a rhythm of doing outside of the consultant's purview and paid assignment. I mean, hopefully all of it will come together and help inform us and therefore help inform the plan. But I mean, my vision of working with you guys over the next 2 years was not that we would be solely under the jurisdiction and control of the consultant, but rather they would be working alongside us to help, develop our document.
I don't think anyone was saying that.
No.
But Mark, that's fantastic. So are you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounded like you were volunteering to lead.
Yeah, I've written to them, so I'll bring that back to you.
And I lost use my screens.
But why is that? giving that on
But in
me?
terms of sort of the broader educational sessions to the public,
No, not right
is
now.
that something that you want to sort of be the lead on coordinating?
Yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to helping you with.
Okay, so got it. Okay, great. Well, should I put on the agenda for our next meeting, just sort of revisiting the general education engagement piece of the strategy and sort of fleshing it out a little bit more?
I like Larry's idea about putting it into the RFP, but if you're going to do it on, before we do anything, then I won't.
I don't think we really know if we're going to or not. We have to talk about what it looks like. So maybe just some further discussion about what it is we're really talking about
and
where
when,
it fits in. Yeah. Okay, well, I know it would be good to end that 15 minutes early so we can all just look at our computers and help John with the grant. Any closing questions or thoughts that we didn't get to cover?
So Katie, and I know we have this, I just want to get a group consensus. Do we have a single paragraph? I could pull from one of our flyers, but we have a single, like 3 or 4. I've been asked a couple times if we have like a mission statement that sort of defines well, sort of explains what is the master plan and what we're doing in 3 or 4 sentences that I could email out?
Absolutely. Let me just, for your benefit and for everybody that is watching, I'm just going to take a second to show everybody our website. Can you all see my screen?
Mhm.
Okay, so Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, here's our page on the town website. You can see here, the first thing you click on is information about the survey and the link to the survey. But then right below, we have our mission statement. Then if you skip to the next section, we have what is a comprehensive plan. And you could pick, there's a little more detail than necessary here, but you could pick out some sentences or just direct people to this webpage. In the updates section, we are keeping links to our useful sessions that we have had. Does that help?
Yeah, I'm just trying to boil it down to 3 or 4, like a palm card, you know, sort of a handout, sort of a one. If we could fit it, it's almost like a subscript to a letter or something. It just one paragraph about. So I'll go through that and pick and choose a couple sentences.
Okay, yeah. Please definitely share with everybody what you put together.
We also had it on the presentation we did to the town board. I think you had our mission statement on that, so.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Now, I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn the meeting, but that's with the understanding that we all put our heads down for 12 minutes and help John with the grant, okay? Does that sound good?
Or more.
Or more. Yep. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, just send me your notes and I'll put them in.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Right.
Okay, thanks so much, everybody. Our next meeting is the 27th, so we will see you then.
Take care. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.